How many of you have either been called a narcissist, been with a narcissist, or found a narcissist in your office? Raise your hand, all of the above. Okay, so listen, a narcissistic abuse. Um, Will, could we shut the chat down, please, at this point? It's distracting
Yep,
my ADD brain. Thank you.
sure. And just to
Uh,
let,
yeah,
sorry,
let people
Terry.
know,
Yeah, so
please.
the chat is now off, and everyone, you can use the Q&A feature if you need to ask anything for customer support. If you want to log questions there for later, you're welcome to. However, Terry will be really focusing on live questions, and we'll talk about asking live questions later. So that's the process. Chat is off, and you can use the Q&A for any questions.
Super. Thank you, Will. Will is our tech support and a wonderful human being. Okay. So a narcissistic abuse is sort of the abuse of the month flavor. You see it all over the place on chat and TikTok and TV shows and everybody's there are support groups for spouses of narcissists and conventional wisdom, Ramana Durvasali, I name names, are clear. If you are married to a narcissist, here's your move: get out. They're not treatable, which, as a couples family therapist for 40 years, drives me, let me say this too technical for you, batshit. Um, let me say from the outset, two things. First of all, the phrase narcissist is such a tortured phrase. I don't use it. Narcissism runs along a spectrum. We're all narcissists. In psychoanalytic literature, they talk about healthy narcissism and actually talking about somebody who doesn't have enough healthy narcissism. In today's language, we would say that's somebody in a one down shame state. They don't feel good enough about themselves. So narcissism occurs along a spectrum from absolutely healthy to someone who has kind of narcissistic traits. That's their style, guilty as charged. And by the way, just for the hell of it, because I love to ground things clinically, this could be wrong, but in my own working with narcissistic folks, I made a little topology. So there's a great book, David Shapiro called Neurotic Styles. And these are not pathologies. These are just sort of their style of your personality. In RLT, we would call it the style of your adaptive child part. And he talks about obsessive compulsive style, which I think we all, shoes lined up by color, order. A hysterical style, which some people have objected to that word, um, linked to misogyny and the idea that uh, being overly emotional was feminine and connected to the womb. That's the origins. But nevertheless, I don't mind talking about a hysterical style. It's warm. It's charming. It's effusive and emotional. So that's that kind of narcissist. And then narcissism proper. So let's see, obsessive compulsive narcissist is the kind of usually a guy, not always. If you love me when I come home, the shoes would be lined up properly. You express your love. I have the right to control you and impose my OCD order on things because it's the way it should be done. And if you love me, you would do it that way. And if you don't, it's because you don't love me. That's so. Narcissistic people with OCD styles are kind of mean, controlling, and mean-spirited often on the upper end. Hysterical is like me, often seductive, charming. Think Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton is a hysterical style narcissist. And then narcissist proper, no offense to anybody, but if I can name Bill Clinton, I can also name Donald Trump. Me, what's in it for me? Trump, everything. Trump Tower, Trump Kennedy Center, Trump Rushmore. Me, what's in it for me? So, by the way, but narcissism occurs along the spectrum. Look, when I was a 34-year-old man just coming out of social work school, I looked around at the field of couples therapy and said, this doesn't work. I looked around at the way people were working with men and said, this doesn't work. We need to do something different. That's narcissism, man. If I didn't have a fair dose of they're wrong, I can do this better, we wouldn't be talking today. So there's a lot of health in this. That's A. It's along a spectrum. So there's healthy narcissism. There are people with a stylistic narcissistic trait or traits that aren't necessarily bad. It's just everybody's got to be something. So you have OCD traits, you have hysterical traits, you have disorganized traits, you have ADD traits, you have narcissistic traits. It's just how you're wired. And then up from there, you have people who are have such, for the moment we'll call it narcissism, that it's problematic. They don't really register, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And then they're difficult to live with, and they're the ones who get dragged into my office so that we can render them more relational and less selfish, which we take on. And then on the extreme ends, there are narcissistic personality disorders, and even that is a long spectrum. There are narcissistic personality disorders that are quite workable, and then there are extreme narcissistic personality disorders that are kind of more like sociopaths or, very little to no capacity for empathy or connection or reflection at all. But what I want to say about those extreme narcissistic personality disorders is, you ready? They're rare. That's rare. That's the equivalent of a hardcore sociopath. They're not the people that are coming to our offices generally. Many of them are in institutions. The partners, and to be honest, often women who are in online support groups with their narcissistic partners being gaslit and being narcissistically abused and having no way of getting through to them and all of that. Guess what? They're not talking about extreme narcissistic personality disorders. They're just talking about people who don't know how to be relational. People, okay, so to me, um, and you've heard me say this, many of you, I don't care about Axis 2 diagnoses, borderline, sociopath, narcissist, antisocial. Um, to me, being called a narcissist, uh, being diagnosed with narcissism just means your therapist doesn't like you very much. Then we get into why they don't like you very much, and then we ask ourselves, is there anything you can do about that? The idea that narcissists cannot be treated is just heartbreaking to me because a lot of people get the advice, break up your family and leave. And you know what? My brethren and sisters in the field, I'd love a little humility Rather than saying narcissists are impossible to treat, I would rather we say, as therapist Jill or Joe, I don't know how to treat them. I haven't found a way of getting through to them. There's a lot more humility than blaming them. Well, guess what? I have. In relational life therapy, we treat the so-called untreatable narcissistic person breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And we do a damn good job of it as a rule. Not always, but more often than not. So how does that work? Well, that's what I'm here to begin to introduce you to. First of all, without beating it into the ground, I don't like the word narcissism. It's too general and too derogatory. I prefer speaking to somebody about their selfishness and about a lack of relationality. That I can get behind. Look, I grew up both neglected and abused by both parents, but I also grew up as a sort of male Jewish American prince. And, the holiday dinners, the women would fuss and cook and clean and bring, and the men would sit around, smoke cigars and drink schnapps and solve the world's problems. There was a fair degree of entitlement. And I tell the men that I work with in particular that relationality is my second language. I've been speaking it for 30 years, so I'm pretty fluent at it. But my first language is selfishness. We talk about first consciousness, your knee-jerk, unthought. And I have to rouse myself. And to this day, I'll be sitting at a dinner with a bunch of people, and somebody will have cornered me, and they'll be talking about how they had incest with their nannies when they were 8 or whatever. And I'll notice out of the corner of my eye that everybody else has gotten up and helped put the dishes, from the dining room into the kitchen, and I'm too riveted with my oh so important conversation to get off my ass and help out and I have to rouse myself. Second consciousness. I have to think. I was so unrelational as a young man uh, that I would literally give myself the task of being aware of how much time in a conversation I spoke about myself and how much time I asked the folks about them, and being aware of whether I was taking over or not, because my default was I was clearly the most interesting topic to be discussed. That's what I learned, and we can learn. There is hope. We can learn, and our narcissistic partners, selves, clients can learn. We can learn to be less selfish, and we can replace an orientation of selfishness with an orientation of relational connection. And when I work with men in particular about this, I call this learning to be a family man. It's not about you. It's a great thing about having a family. It stretches you. It's good for the soul. It's good for the soul to give and to go beyond yourselves. And for us guys, to go beyond being a breadwinner and not much more. So just because these are your defaults, it doesn't mean that you're sort of doomed. Gosh, I hate that. And the idea that what you should do if you're in a relationship with somebody with narcissistic issues is just get out. To me, is a really good example of the individualistic bias of our culture and the individualistic bias of our field. It's the difference between what I call individual empowerment and relational empowerment. Yes, many of these partners have been oppressed, unlistened to, even badly treated by their partners that we used to call narcissistic. Now I'm going to call them grandiose and selfish. Uh, yes, that's true. And standing up to them is great. But how do you stand up to them? With harshness or with love? Do you stand up as an individual, as an adversary, or as a team member? And this we teach people in RLT, loving power, how to stand up and fight for what you want and cherish your partner and be loving all at the same time. It's missing in this culture. In this culture, you either accommodate, often resentfully, that's traditionally feminine, or you move into power, but you're quite individualistic, uh, traditionally masculine, but you're not both at the same time. Loving power is beyond patriarchy. And it's a good example of what I mean when I say moving into health, intimacy, means moving beyond patriarchy for all genders, moving beyond traditional roles. So a lot of partners of these one-up grandiose spouses are waking up and getting empowered and empowering themselves right out of their long-term relationships, their families. Um, that's individual empowerment. Individual empowerment, I summarize as I was weak, now I'm strong, go screw yourself. And therapists, 12-step sponsors, feminist groups, your mom, your pals will all cheer. I wouldn't put up with that if I was you. That's individual empowerment. Easy to say. Here's relational empowerment. I was weak, now I'm strong. I'm going to stand toe to toe with you. I'm going to tell you exactly what I want and need. Let's roll up our sleeves and work together. I love you. What do you need from me to help you deliver? Who sounds like that? No one, unless they've been trained. No one in this culture. It's beyond this culture. I love you. This is what I need from you. I want you to be less selfish and more connected to me. I want to be close to you. Let's work on that together. As opposed to, you're hopeless. I'm packing up the kids and we're out of here, which as a family therapist, I mean, I don't like seeing families broken up when they don't have to be. So, okay. So here's my big, bold, narcissistic, grandiose claim. We know how to treat 90% of narcissists in RLT. How? Well, grandiosity and selfish. That's what I say instead of narcissist. Grandiose and selfish. So what is grandiose? It's what I like to call the other self-esteem disorder. Look, for half a century, psychology, self-help, we've been obsessed with helping people come up from the one down of shame, feeling inferior, unlovable, not as good as, undeserving. But we've done a terrible job of helping people come down from the one up of grandiosity, superiority, which is the flip side of the inferiority. I'm better than. I'm entitled. I'm looking down my nose at you. I am contemptuous. I am irresponsible. I do what the hell I want. That's all one up, grandiose behavior. And I can work with grandiosity more directly and easily than so-called narcissism. I can help you come down from grandiosity. Why is the $10,000 question? Why would you want to? So in order to understand how we do this, let's start off with the difference between, let me start off with two things. One is when I move somebody out of grandiosity or facilitate their moving out, what I'm moving them into is relationality. What does that mean? Connection. Connection to yourself. What am I thinking? What am I feeling? What do I really want? And connection to others. What do they want? What do they need? How should I show up for them? How do I let them in? And I believe that relationality, the state of authentic, intimate connection to ourselves first and to others, those we love, our communities, other races, other people unlike us, the planet, spirit. Connection is our birthright. Connection is what the human species is designed for. Relationality and intimacy is how we work. We're pack animals. And this is hardcore. I've been saying this for 40 years, but now science has really caught up. Not being authentically, intimately connected is as bad for our bodies. Vivek Murthy, the previous Surgeon General, quoted this study, as smoking a pack and a half of cigarettes a day. Exercise, nutrition, sleep, company. We are born to be intimate. And RLT, relational life therapy, is known not only for producing change, but producing deep, transformative change permanently and quickly. And we do, not just me, but all really good, well-trained RLT therapists produce deep change quickly. How? Because we move somebody into the jet stream of connection. And connection is what we're born for. It feels so much better to be connected than to be living in a state of disconnection. That once people get a taste of what real connection feels like, that jet stream just takes them. They move very quickly. It's so pleasurable. We don't do it. Relationality does it for us. That's the ace that we have in our back pocket. So when we're moving somebody out of so-called narcissism, grandiosity, and selfishness, what we're moving them into is the joy, nurture of deep connection. And man, does it feel good. Okay, so I want to say something about relationality as being our driver, our plumb line, our secret sauce, what we offer. And then I want to say that narcissistic traits uh, can be worked with. Understand this. Grandiosity differs from shame in two critical ways. One, shame feels bad. We've all felt it. You know, you pick your nose and somebody walks in on you, you scream at your kid and they cry, you feel terrible. Shame feels bad. And you're in pain and you want to get out of it. Here is the extraordinary open secret, my friends. Grandiosity feels good. Not only does it not feel bad, it goddamn feels good. It feels good to eat that second pint of Ben and Jerry's ice cream. It feels good to have that third martini. It feels good to make out with your secretary at the water cooler. It feels good to tell your boss to shove it. Uh, Losing constraint in the moment and letting your immature responses out uncurtailed is a release. In RLT, we see all forms of intoxication as a portal into grandiosity. You get high, it's grandiose. You get drunk, it's grandiose. Uh, I ask people to think about mania and bipolar disorder. Mania is sort of nature's own crack grandiosity. And we have to lock people up because they think they can fly and they'll throw themselves off a roof. So A, grandiosity feels good. And B, it impairs judgment. The more grandiose you are, the more impaired your judgment is. And specifically, it impairs two things. One, empathy. The more grandiose you are, the less empathy you have toward others, the less aware of the impact that you're having on others, the less you care about it. And two, it blunts your correct assessment of negative consequences. Let me say that again. One, grandiosity feels good, it blunts empathy, and you don't get the consequences. Think about teenage boys. My wife, Belinda, says it's the job of a mom of any boy between 18 and 25 to keep them alive. Everything else is everything else. And I remember being 18, 19, being stoned, driving down a country road at 80 miles an hour, thinking I was in control and I could have killed myself. Teenage boys are naturally grandiose. Drunks are grandiose. And people in a bipolar disorder, in mania, are grandiose. Rage is grandiose. It feels good and an impaired judgment, both of which we can work with. So, but it's a challenge, isn't it? I like to say shame-based people are in pain. Grandiose-based people, which is my word for narcissist, grandiose-based people are generally not in pain. The people around them are in pain. They're in trouble. We see them when they're in trouble. They either elect because things are so bad at work or home or wherever, or they're partner mandated referrals. They're brought. The great psychiatrist George Vaillant, this is so long ago, people smoked in public, tell a story that is my go-to. Many of you have heard it. George, there are two kinds of people in the world. There's a guy who walks into an elevator, gets claustrophobic, and turns green. There's a guy who walks into an elevator, lights up a big fat stogie, and everybody around him turns green. That's the difference between shame and grandiosity, implosion, explosion. And there's no insight. That's that lack of empathy. If I were to say to the guy with a cigar, are you noticing that the people around you are coughing and sputtering? And they're a bunch of wimps. This isn't this is a very expensive Havana cigar. There's no reason why these people should be so right. So there's very little insight and there's very little pain. The difficulties are usually interpersonal, not intrapsychic. So these people are not banging down your door saying, treat me, treat me, treat me, unless they're in some sort of interpersonal crisis. So if they're not in pain and they have no insight, how are you going to get them? um, I like to say when you're dealing with a grandiose client, you have to be able to answer the question they're asking themselves, which is, why should I put up with you? And the answer to that is called leverage. Um, in order to engage a grandiose person, you need buy-in. And so here's the first revolutionary bit of news. I agree with Ramani and others. Traditional one-on-one transference-based talk therapy does not work with most narcissist people along anything but the mildest form. I mean, once you get to medium on up, traditional one-on-one talk therapy doesn't do shit. So don't do it. How do we get to a narcissistic person? Guess what? We invite the other people in the elevator into the therapy with us. We don't do one-on-one therapy with grandiose people. We do family therapy, couples therapy, work team, executive coaching. We deal with the person in their social context. Bring the partner, and if the children are old enough, sometimes the children into the sessions with you. The other people in the elevator will give you the data you need and the leverage you need. The guy in the elevator, he doesn't have a problem. Okay, Bill, you don't have a problem with your cigar, but one of the other people in the elevator is your boss. And they're telling you if you don't put that cigar away, you're going to get fired. Have you heard that? Well, yeah, I know, but Bill, don't do that. I'm fond of you already. I'm telling you, don't, you're going to get fired. Well, if you're with a shame-based person and you love them to bits, which is what we're all taught to do, nurture is like the number one tool of most therapists. And there's a whole toolbox of other tools we're not taught to use. You can nurture a shame-based person, and they'll internalize your nurture and maybe learn from it and be less harsh and more nurturant to themselves. I did that. My very first therapy was 3 days a week for 5 years with a psychoanalyst, and he was kind, and I got a little bit kinder to myself. I think they're much more efficient, direct ways of working with self-esteem, but you're supplying what's missing, tenderness. You can be tender to a narcissistic, grandiose person till the cows come home. And it'll be a very cozy therapy. They'll love you. If you need your rent paid, but you're not going to do anything. What's missing is empathy to the other people in the elevator. What's missing is empathy to the partner. What's missing is a correct assessment of negative consequences. That's what we supply. So first order of business, once we gather data and we have a sense of what's going on, if you're with a couple and one is more in the one-up grandiose position, a rager, a liar, selfish, irresponsible, makes contracts and breaks them, a substance abuser, a sexual acting outer. You're with somebody in the one up and they come in with somebody in the one down. Not all couples are like this. Some are symmetrical, but many are not. Many couples, one is in the one up and the other is in the more enabling, walking around on eggshells, don't set them off. When we have that, our first move is to empower the one down one. To deal with the power discrepancy, bring the one down one up so that he stands up to his partner. And will help you do that in non-harsh, punitive ways, that individual empowerment. Fuck you, I'm not taking this. No, I want to be close to you. This is getting in the way. Let's get to work together. And we use the empowerment of the one down to stand up to the one up as leverage. It's what we call negative leverage. This is amplifying the negative consequences. And the $10,000 question is, we'll do it heteronormative. Jill, you've dragged your guy to 3 different therapy, nobody's helped. If this therapy doesn't work, what's going to happen? Well, and it could be anything. the obvious is, well, eventually I'm going to have to leave. Do you believe that, Bill? And then you use the threat of the breakup of the family as your negative consequence. You don't want to see that happen, do you, Bill? Um, but you amplify that. Do you believe her? She's threatened before. He doesn't believe you. Well, he should. Really? Why? Why is this different than the other times you threatened? Well, I've already talked to a lawyer. Whoa. These are all amplification moves. Whoa. You have? Did you know that, Bill? And then the punchline, I think you better take her seriously, man. I don't know. So you amplify the negative consequence that they're not seeing and that maybe hasn't been spoken directly because the enabler is afraid of them. And then you write in on that. But you don't want to break up your family, Bill. You love this. You love your kids. You love your wife. I can help you. That's negative leverage. I stand. What I've got in my back pocket is that I stand between you and a negative consequence you don't want. Divorce. The other big negative consequence that motivates people is not hurting your children, particularly men. What kind of father did you have? What kind of father do you want to be? How are you doing? It must make you sick, Bill, to realize that in this family, you yell and scream when you're pissed off, just like your father did when you were growing up. What was that like for you as a little boy? I'll bet at some point you looked at that old man, you said, when I grow up, I'm never going to be like you. Do you remember? Everybody remembers the moment. Yeah, I was standing by the kitchen table. And people remember. Gosh, Bill, it must make you just sick to realize that you've become your dad. That's what we call loving confrontation, the first of the three phases of RLT, joining through the truth. Gosh, Bill, it must make you sick. That is the wise adult. And the beauty of that therapeutic conversation is that he wasn't sick about it 5 minutes ago. He is now. That's coming into remorse, which is also coming into connection. So we help you come down from this. And then there's positive leverage. You'll live longer. Literally, your body, you will live 10 to 15 years longer if you do this work. And you will pass on a legacy to your kids, which is 10 times healthier and happier, both in their relationship to themselves and when they're old enough with their partners. You want to change the legacy, man. You want to give to them more than what you got. That's a big motivator. A lot of particularly, my beat are tough guys. And I get these big tough guys and they won't do shit for their partners. And they don't really care that much about themselves. But they will do the work to spare their children. That speaks to them. Okay, I'll take it. Negative consequences, if you go on like this, these are the terrible things that are going to happen to you. Positive leverage is if you play ball and open your heart and learn how to be connected, then these are the wonders that are available to you. Love, love, and being loved. That's what I have in my back pocket that I can offer you. This is the hardest work you're ever going to do. And it will absolutely transform your life. It'll transform how you feel between your ears. It'll transform your relationship. It will transform the future of the generations that come after you. All of that. But you have to do the work. Will you let me help you? And what this is joining through the truth, waking up the client, loving confrontation. In order to understand that, I don't need to belabor it, but um, we talk about three parts of the psyche in RLT: the prefrontal cortex, the thinking part of the brain, wise adult self, we call it the wise adult, present-based part that's listening to this now. But then when you get trauma triggered, there's the wounded child that so much of trauma work focuses on, very young, first moments of life to 4 or 5, just all feeling, all reaction, cry, cry, cry. And then between this very present-based mature part and this very early, young, wounded, flooded part is what we call the adaptive child part of you, adaptive child. It's what most people that I see in my office have lived most of their lives in, thinking that it's a wise adult, and it isn't. And the world at large will reward adaptive children, but they'll make a mess of your families and your personal life. The adaptive child part of you is how you learn to be. And this is a longer conversation coming, you'll learn about this, but the adaptive child part always has two parts of different proportion. The one we normally think about is the reactive part of our adaptation. I had an intrusive mother, I live behind walls. I grow up, I marry, I experience my partner as intrusive, and I ward them off with my big walls. Show me the thumbprint and I'll tell you about the thumb. The way I handle myself in my current relationship has, particularly when I'm under stress, has everything to do with my knee-jerk response to protect myself growing up as a child. Fight, flight, or fawn, which as an adult we call fix. Fight, flight, or fix. Take a moment. What are you on those rare moments when you're not in your wise adult? Fight, flight, or fix. Automatic, knee-jerk. The way out of this is what we call relational mindfulness. Take a breath. Second, consciousness. I'm a fighter. I grew up in violence. Belinda's a fighter. Belinda comes at me. Whew, I'm ready to go. Take a breath. Remember love. My wife is not the enemy. My wife. I don't want to pound her into the ground and prove I'm right. I want to make things better for both of us. This is remembering love, bringing the wise adult prefrontal cortex back on board. And that's the same work for all of us, whether we're narcissistic or OCD or depressive or anxious or whatever we are. That's our work. Learning to be relational means learning to deal with trauma triggering, with moving from what Dan Siegel, the neurobiologist, calls the reactive mind to the responsive mind. You quiet the limbic system, bring the wise adult back on board. Ah, okay. Belinda's mad. Yes, I definitely want to punch her in the nose, but I'm not going to. I'm going to take a breath. Okay, honey, you're mad. Tell me what's going on. Let's sit down and talk to each other. That's my wise adult. That can be grown. That can be cultivated. So when I'm in the first phase, joining through the truth, as a therapist, I'm sort of bypassing the grandiose adaptive child part of you, and I'm forming a coalition with your wise adult. Not by a nurture, 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 by looking together at that adaptive child part and what a mess it makes. But I know you can do better. Healthy self-esteem, which we have to teach people, that's rare in this culture, and that's a whole other longer conversation, but healthy self-esteem, and I go online. I have a whole course on self-esteem. Let your clients, please go. Healthy self-esteem is the capacity to feel proportionally bad about bad behavior and hold yourself in warm regard as a flawed person, just like the rest of us, both at the same time. If you don't feel bad about your bad behavior, you're grandiose, ultimately shameless and sociopathic. You want to feel bad about bad behavior proportionately. If you go from inflation to deflation, you go from shameless grandiosity to shame. I'm a terrible person. I'm a big shit. We see people do that, and we help them come out of it by teaching them how to do that, how to come out. We're not afraid of people going from inflation to deflation. We help pull them up. Feeling proportionally bad about bad behavior and holding yourself as a flawed, good person. I'm a good person who behaved badly. Let me make amends to the person I hurt. Let me see what they need. Let me learn and do better. That's healthy self-esteem. And joining through the truth with a grandiose person is what I call healthy self-esteem and therapeutic action. As the therapist, I am casting a very cool eye on your nasty or self-defeating or irresponsible or whatever it is behavior, not holding any punches. And I'm holding you with love in my heart at the same time. That is the combo. One or the other is not enough. It's both at the same time. Listen, Bill. Bill, who's been a womanizer, sex addict, and a philanderer for 20 years. You know, Bill, you're a decent guy. I have been with men who are undecent to the bone. They're called sociopaths. And man, they're cold, but you're warm. I feel connected to you. Nod. You laugh at my jokes. You feel like you're taking in what I'm saying. You know what's so sad here, Bill? I am talking to a good guy who's behaved badly for 20 years. What a mess. Will you let me help rescue that good person you are from all this crap? I think you deserve it. I think your kids deserve it. I think your marriage deserves it. Want to give it a shot? Well, who says no to that? When I was in therapy school, I learned first you form an alliance with your client, and then maybe what, 3, 4, 5 years out after they quote unquote trust you, then you confront them with difficult truths. Good luck with that. No. In RLT, the magic is we form the alliance by telling you the difficult truth right out of the starting gate. But we do it with such love. We're so on your side, and we're so precise. The level 1 training that I'm inviting you into is all about how you see it. There are 8 lenses that you'll learn. One on top, they're relational, not psychiatric. What's the dance between the two? And that's one lens. What was this person's role in their family growing up? What is their adaptive child strategy? And you get to know all this stuff. And then when you get all of what you have to say is so precise. Partly the reason why we get away, people like it when we tell them the truth is because they resonate with it. It's empathy. You get me. A sweet, flamboyant gay guy I treated ended his first session by smiling at me and saying, I feel splayed and filleted. I thought that was a great compliment. And you know you're doing an RLT session when somebody says they got more out of one session with you than the last 3 years with Dr. So-and-so. That's RLT. We go right for it. This is what you're doing that's blowing your foot off. And then the next phase is trauma work. Work with that adaptive child. Where did this come from? Where did you learn that? So part of the adaptive child is reactive. I learned this by protecting myself from my brutal, controlling father. So I live behind walls. That's the reacting. What makes life difficult is the other half of the adaptive child is often modeling. Identification. You see yourself the way you were seen. You take in the perspective and the values of the people who are looking at you. And often the issue there is not disempowerment, what we normally think of when we think of abuse, feeling small, but what we call false empowerment, being pumped up. Disempowerment leads to shame. False empowerment leads to grandiosity. Not all grandiosity is a defense against shame. That's a fairy tale, about half of it. The other half is a straight consequence of being groomed, falsely empowered, or at least not checked. I have a dear friend who's an artist, and it's on the table. It's a joke about how narcissistic he is, and his dear mother. And he remembers being a 15-year-old boy, and they sold a Picasso exhibit, and the mother walks out of the museum and says, "You're better than that guy." That is not a favor. That is a form of abuse. And once you get that, grandiosity is often the consequence of having been pumped up as a child. There's no favor to you. You can work with a grandiose person with love in your heart and accountability at the same time. Oh, you were set up to. Oh, no one taught you. There was a sensitivity chip, Chris, that should have been installed into you by your parents at 4 and 5. They never did. So you're a pretty insensitive guy. So now you have to come to Boston then. We install it in your 40s. It can be done. Not your fault. You deserved better parenting than that. I call this attitude, oh, you poor perpetrator. You were set up to. You didn't get what you needed. You were artificially pumped up. No, you're not God's gift. That is not a favor to say to a child. It's a curse. Let me get you out of this. And implicit in all this is a core message. It's in your interests to come down from your grandiosity, to learn sensitivity, to not be so selfish. You'll be a happier person. You'll be in a happier family. You'll even be physically healthier. It's in your interest to learn this. It's not your fault. Nobody taught you. But here we are. Can I teach you now? And they say yes. And then we do. And we teach sensitivity, just like I learned it. Still learning it. Empathy is something you're supposed to need 10 years of psychoanalysis to get better at. In RLT, and I'm just giving you one example of teaching people to be less selfish and more relational. I call this remedial empathy. Before you open your mouth, stop and think about what this is going to feel like to the person that you're speaking to. Now, go ahead. That can be learned. I deal with a lot of high rollers. About 1 in 4 of my clients is sliding fee. I'll see them for whatever they can afford, but 3 out of 4 are, captains of the universe. And I make this distinction with almost all of them. And it goes back to what that ace in my back pocket that I have to sell. I talk about the distinction between gratification and relational joy. Gratification is a short-term hit of pleasure. It's great. I love it. Good in its place. Pretty girl flirts with you. Great. You make a killing in the stock market that day. Great. Your kid gets an A on their paper. Great. It's all gratifying. Great in its place. Relational joy is a deeper down pleasure that I have to teach a lot of people, that just comes from being there and being connected. Think about parenting. Sometimes your kid is incredibly gratifying, little love bug. Sometimes they're a pain in the ass. You want to throw them through the window. But the real joy of being there is not about the ups and downs of these changes. Deeper than that. I love my child and I love loving my child. And I've grown incredibly by learning to love my child. Sometimes my child's great, sometimes my child's a pain in the ass, but the joy I feel is about being connected to them, period. Same thing with your spouse, same thing with yourself. Relational joy, the joy of connection itself. And what I teach a lot of these high power guys is you've lived your whole life as much of the culture based on gratification. And you're a sieve. No matter how many accolades, how much money, how many women. No, healthy self-esteem comes from the inside out. You have no idea what that feels like. The joy of connection is about hanging out and being there. It's got nothing to do with anything you have to accomplish. Let me teach you what that feels like. It is the pearl of great price. It is the only thing that will make you happy. That's what we have to sell. Okay, I'm right on time. That's my little wrap. I know we're going to open up for questions, but I think you have a little wrap before we do.
Yeah, so we're going to do questions in just a couple minutes, but I'm coming on to share a personal experience because I got to train and complete certifications. So Terry knows this, but I got certified just before the new year, just for the holidays.
Congratulations, Will.
Yeah, and so I've been working with couples for the last year. I never ever thought that I would work with couples. I've been working with individuals for about a decade. And it's been a lot of fun. And I remember my very first couple that I worked with now just over a year ago. And the guy was grandiose. I don't think anyone would call him narcissistic, but definitely grandiose to the point of he did what I now think of as the infamous butter knife test. So he would leave one dish out every meal to see if his partner would notice that he had left it, to see if she would take the initiative to clean it up. And he didn't get that this test was really not sitting very well with her. So I followed the cookbook. I followed the recipe. I made it my own, but I followed the recipe. And I saw that I needed leverage. But before leverage, I knew I needed a clear foundation. I needed what Terry calls the stance, stance, dance to get the picture of where the couple really was and what they really needed to work on. And so I want to share with you the stance, dance, dance that I got because I want everyone here to sign up for our level one course. So we have started in just over a week our next live level one. And that's where you begin to get the recipe, the full cookbook of how you do RLT to be able to work with grandiose or narcissistic clients. Because if you don't have the foundation, then all the extra moves later, they don't have anywhere to land. And I think from the therapist that I've listened to that sometimes that can be the issue. So I had this grandiose guy. He was doing the knife test. His same thing. His partner was trying to get through to him for 3 years, couldn't. He wasn't getting it, wasn't getting it. And I shared this with them. This was the stance, stance, dance. And it's not as clean or as perfect as many more experienced practitioners will get to, but it was good enough to get the contract for 6 months of work. So I shared with them. The more he dismissively hides in a bunker, the more she frantically runs around the battlefield looking for love.
Hmm.
And like I say, it's not as polished as it could be, but it was
No, that's
definitely good
beautiful,
enough.
Will. I'll take that. I'll take
Okay.
that.
Okay. So it had them and they were interested. And we then continued for 6 months. She did have to leave him for a time for him to get that she meant business. So they did break up. And then he signed up with me as a private client because he finally realized, and it was remarkable to see the difference in him coming back in. But it started with the moment in my office, my virtual office, of calling him out and saying, "Look, what you're doing doesn't work. This is grandiose. It doesn't work." And then she had to step up. So I helped to empower her to be able to do that. So that all started because of our level one training. So I want to take just a moment and share with you two things from our level one course to give you an idea. Because, like I say, I'm now a big proponent of this. It sets the foundation for your training to work with couples, to work with those grandiose individuals as well. So inside of our level one, we're going to run in just over a week and a half, so 10 days, I think. We have the original modules that Terry did. Each one is an hour long. And then there's 1 full hour of live Q&A with Bonnie Slim, who's one of our most experienced faculty. So you can ask I've been seeing, by the way, all the questions in the chat. Amazing questions. I hope some of you will raise your hand so Terry can take those questions live. And you're going to have about 5 hours of dedicated Q&A time just for that. The other part that I really want to show you is this vault of past Q&A clips. So every time that we run this course, I take the best of the best questions. I clip them out if they're 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 8 minutes. We now have about 40 of these in here. And the reason why this is so valuable, so even though I'm certified now, I'm working with a new couple currently, and I'm a little bit stuck on some of the foundational pieces. And I thought, well, why don't I just go back to what I know? So I came back to level one. I found about 3 or 4 clips in here specifically. They were about the exact place that I'm stuck with this couple. So level one has continued to be very valuable for me, even though I'm fully certified. So I want to show you the modules, and then I'll hand it back over to Terry, and we'll get into some live questions. So here are the modules. We've got module one, the 3 phases of RLT and how they work. Module two, data gathering and the diagnostic lenses. Module three, the adaptive child and losing strategies. Module four, the relationship grid, boundaries, and self-esteem. And then in module five, the eighth lens, leverage and reconnecting the blatant. You also get these bonuses. I've mentioned some of these already. The 75-minute recorded demo session with Terry is great. You see him work with a couple, not from start to finish exactly, but it's a first session, and it's a fantastic overview of the model. It's a great demo. And there are 10 CEs that you can get with this course when you attend live. Classes are every Thursday from 12 until 2 p.m. Eastern for 5 weeks, starting on the 22nd. And here's the cost and the link to sign up. I'll put that link in the chat as well. So it's a one-time payment of $395 or 3 payments of $137. And I'll put that link in the chat. Terry, before I get to the Q&A instructions, anything that you wanted to add about level one?
Now, what I wanted to feel moved to say is before we move to Q&A about the material, does anybody have a burning question about the level one course?
Let me see. If you do, please put it in the chat. You can type in the chat. So for this one, I won't bring you on camera. At the moment, I'm going to lower everybody's hands. If you have a question for Terry, which we'll get to in just 1 minute, please do raise your hand. Then I'll invite you to come on as a panelist. Once I bring you on as a panelist, you have to start your camera, and then I'll be able to bring you on. So I'll just take 1 minute here in the chat for questions about level one. How many levels are there? There are 3 levels for our training, for the core part of our training. There are other courses you need to get fully certified, but for our core training, there are 3 levels. How many levels total are necessary for becoming an RLT certified therapist? 3 levels. There's other courses. I'll put the link for certification in the chat because there's much more to it. Are the classes recorded? Yes, they are recorded. What if the day and the time doesn't work? We have recordings. I will put the link in the chat. Yeah. How does level one course lead into certification? So that's a broader question. It's the beginning of certification. So level 1, 2, 3, working with grandiosity, self-esteem and boundaries are courses that are included. And for certification, most importantly, it's our live small group practicums. So you're in with 10 people, you practice, you're with a faculty member. They are fantastic. I don't want to go, I want to have time for questions. So I'll put the link to the application form and everything in there.
Let me just say this, Will. You're going
Yeah.
to put the link in for everything that's required to become fully certified. It's a big deal. It takes a couple of years. And it's a really rich, beautiful program. And when you come out, you will know what the hell you're doing. Look at that will and the confidence. Um, the other thing I do want to say, though, is we're not telling you to sign up for the whole 9-course tasting menu. Do the level one. It will help you out in your work, just the level one, and then see how it feels, and take it one step at a time. So the level one, while it's both the intro to the whole training, it's also standalone, and People, I'd say more people than not take the level one, and that's all they take, and they're quite happy with it. So
Yeah,
either way, but it's your introduction. Okay,
great.
Will, shall we bring on some questions about?
Yeah, I've got people that are ready, and
Okay.
I forgot to say that these are questions for professionals, so therapists and coaches, practitioners that are working with clients. It's not a time for personal questions if it's your partner that you are interested in working on your relationship. So I'll jump off
Right.
the
And
screen
also, I
and
want to
then,
say,
yeah.
I want the questions to be about the actual material I've covered.
Mm,
I don't want to go into a long case supervision with somebody. I really want your questions to be about what you've heard today. So,
great.
okay.
Well, I'll bring on Chase first because she's unmuted.
Hi, Chase. Where are you calling from?
Hi, I'm from West Palm Beach, Florida.
Great. Okay. Your question or comment.
So I wanted to know what you would suggest in a situation where, in couples therapy, one partner is presenting with grandiosity, and that grandiose way of being is appearing to be reinforced by their own individual therapist.
Oh, yeah, boy. That's that individual empowerment. I was
Hmm.
weak, now I'm strong, go screw yourself. And the therapist cheers. I like to say, as a couples therapist of 40 years, often the bane of my existence is an individual therapist who is pumping up the individual empowerment of their client and empowering their client right out of a potentially workable marriage. It just drives me insane. There are children involved here, kids. Like, you don't have to break up the goddamn family, but please. So I treat individual therapists as system members. And I always call them and try and help them support the relationship and not the individual. It's endemic. What does somebody do in individual therapy? Well, they bitch about their partner. That's what they do, and the individual therapist is on their side. And so I call the individual, look, that partner isn't nearly as bad as you think they are. I'm on the front line. I see them both. You're just getting the report. So I understand why you're telling your person they might be better off without the partner, but you've never even laid eyes on the person. Please, I'm telling you, they're okay. I'll bring you into a session with me if you want. You can see for yourself. But please, I need you to support the relationship and not the individual. Would you be willing to do that? And then if they're not, in RLT, we take a very radical position. You ready? We disagree with other therapists. Just like you say, just like I brought on Romani, who I have a lot of respect for, but no, narcissists are not untreatable. I'm sorry. I know how to treat them. So there we go. And I like to say, and I said this before I was famous, uh, I'm the one that's sitting with the relationship. And your 12-step sponsor, your mom, your individual, they're getting pieces. I got the whole thing. And I'm here to save your relationship if it's savable. If it's not, get out. I have no interest in spooning you into a bad relationship. But I'm the one on the front line. And here's my deal. I'm the quarterback. And if anybody else in this system, mother, father, 12-step sponsor, feminist coach, the therapist say go left, and I say go right, we go right. And if you're not willing to do that, I'm not willing to take you on. And I say that to everybody, and I've said that for 40 years. Um, when I was really bluffing, I really needed the work, but tough shit. Anyway, how's that feel?
Yeah, I mean that's great. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
It's a good question. Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Bring on Deb next.
Thank you, Will, and thank you, Terry.
Hi, where
Just
are you calling from?
I'm outside of Toronto.
Oh, great. And do you have any RLT training?
Level one, I'm in the process of. I'm
Oh,
also
good.
registered for your conference in Montreal
Oh,
in
congratulations. Great.
September. I'm in, man. I'm in.
All
Um,
right.
the leverage is there. Great springboard off of the previous question. individual counseling with a client for probably 3 years. They've moved into a relationship that is trying to live together now. And they're hitting some bumps in the road. I question myself and my validity of what my role can be, seeing as I've been the individual therapist, and yet I'm reluctant to let them go on to just any kind of couples counseling.
Good
How would
move.
you handle it, Terry?
Well, if you want to refer them and keep the individual, refer them to an RLT therapist. Where are you in Canada?
Outside of Toronto.
Yeah, we got a lot of certified RLT therapists in Toronto. You should know that network anyway.
Okay, great. Thank
So
you.
that solves the problem of finding a therapist who's going to support you. On the other hand, you may be moved to say, see, RLT, what we believe is the curative factor is teaching people how to have relational lives. And where best to do that than in the crucible of their action? So I often start with an individual and then wind up bringing the relationship in with their permission and with the permission of the partner. The partner often has to be reassured that I don't have a sort of buddy-buddy alliance with the individual I've been seeing, that I'll be fair, but I am. They get one session and they get that. But I will say to the individual, look, I think the action is your relationship now. Let's go deal with that together. How's that sound?
But my only follow-up question would be, and if the relationship is unsuccessful, am I allowed to move back into an individual practice with the client?
I would negotiate that up front with everybody in your
Okay.
first session with them as a couple.
Thank you, Terry. Wonderful.
Good question. I like this. Okay, others.
Bring on Joy. There you are.
Yeah,
Hi,
hey
Joy.
Terry.
Where are you
Um,
calling from?
I work in New York City as well as in the Hudson Valley in New Paltz, and I'm on the faculty of PACT, the PACT Institute, and I
Oh,
integrate a lot of your work because I love a lot of what you do, and I want to go back to that balance between individual and couple because you're always balancing it in a session. What is your policy? And you kind of said it just now about meeting with an individual from the couple that you're working in a meeting separately.
love
Um,
it. When there's a reason to.
well, what happens when there are
So,
secrets, and or an affair or something? I mean, how do you handle that?
okay. Um, so this is a whole other thing, but
Yeah,
in the very first moments of the first session, I say I have two rules. The pass rule, I tend to be blunt. I put that on the table. You can pass on anything I ask or anything your partner asks. Is that acceptable? Yes, yes. Okay, good. And the other is confidentiality. And different therapists work out different ways, but when I meet with one of you, phone call, I ask you to go off for part of a session or a whole session. The boundary of confidentiality is around the two of us, not the three of us. So I would say, let's say your client. So I say, Joy, if you want to tell me I'm making you a lesbian, if you want to tell me that you've always hated your partner Cheryl's earrings, but don't tell her to hurt her feelings, I will keep that confident. I always pick something stupid, superficial, no, not triggering. I will keep that confidence. Different therapists work that different ways, but that's how I like to work it. Joy, is that acceptable to you? Yes. Jill, is that acceptable to you? Yes. Now I have a contract. Contracts are there, ladies and gentlemen, to protect you. And I say this with couples as well. Contracts are there to protect you. So
yeah,
if I didn't have a contract with you, and Jill tells me that she's been having an affair,
right.
uh, and it comes out later, you'd be furious at me. Having the contract, you'd still be mad, but I remind you, Joy, do you remember our very first session? We set this up so that you were both allowed to tell me things that I would not share with your partner. That was what we all agreed upon. I'm sorry, I know you're angry. So I asked for, I want to know. those of us who work a lot with infidelity, Esther Perel, Janet Abrams Springs, Michelle Weiner, we all of us want to hear. So I set up a contract and I don't use the word secrets, by the way. That's already pathologizing. I use the words keeping confidentiality. What a difference in language. You kept her secret. I kept her confidence.
Okay. I would challenge some of that because I think it's very complicated because the neutral role is so important. But that's another conversation.
We
I
don't
also
do
want to mention,
neutral.
huh? Well, I
We
know
just
you don't
don't.
believe in neutrality. I understand. No,
Yeah.
no, I know that.
So
I want to mention a technique that I use, which I've been offering to individuals. The only time I work with them is I go into their individual therapy sessions with them as the couples person. And that's been working wonderfully because I tell them the couple's viewpoint right in front of the patient and in front of their therapist.
that's
And it's
fine.
like,
Great.
it
Whatever
works.
works. Or you can invite the individual therapist into a couple session. Sure. Whatever works.
Thanks.
Go
Thanks.
for it.
These offerings are great. I love these webinars. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, who next?
Great. Bring on Jenna. Jenna, if you can unmute yourself.
Good morning.
Hi.
Thank you, Terry and Will.
Hi.
Hi. I'm
Where are you
in
calling from?
Venice Beach, California.
Oh, boy, that's
Ye-
great. And do you have any RLT training?
I'm doing level 1 at the moment,
All right.
working
And
through.
how is
Yeah,
it?
it's wonderful. Yeah, I'm using it with a few couples that I work with, so bit by
Good.
bit.
Good. Okay.
So I was curious in some of the examples that you give of loving confrontation, I noticed that you will often be speaking to the wounded part of the child, right? Like, oh, what a shame your father did this to you. And I'm thinking of a grandiose client who is so defended against any perceived attack on the image of the family, which is this
Yeah.
happy, wealthy family who are often pictured as one up to the partner's family in the sessions. So I've noticed that it's difficult to try to get the leverage there. And I wonder, I mean, I'm thinking about going in through the partner and having them express this, but I
How
wonder
how
if you have thought.
how is the partner being one up in the marriage in ways that are problematic?
Um, Often critiquing their partner as a sort of veiled, I'm trying to help you, you know?
Oh
If
yeah.
only
So
you would go work out, if only. Um,
benevolent despot, I call that.
mhm, mhm,
This is for your own good.
mhm.
Uh, well, so be the guy. What's your first name? We'll just be him.
Uh,
I want you to
I don't
role
know, let's
play
call
this
him
guy,
Johnny. Yeah.
Johnny. So you know that it's a wife we're talking about.
Hmm.
You know your wife is really fed up with you schooling her with the best of intentions.
Hmm.
She sees that as condescending and patronizing. Did I get that right, Mrs. Johnny? Of course, she's going to say that. Okay, Johnny, what's that like to hear your wife say about you? Go ahead, be him. How would he answer?
Uh, uh, Something to the effect of, well, I'm such a good father. I take care of the kids all the time, so you can go do this thing. I show up in all these ways. I'm not really sure why this criticism is coming from you.
Wow. Hey, Mrs. Johnny, uh, you feel very listened to right now?
Hmm.
Be the wife.
Um, if you're asking Johnny if he feels very listened
No,
to, or if
John,
the wife is,
no, I'm asking
uh-huh.
his wife who's sitting in the session listening to this. Do you
Yeah,
feel
got
very
it.
listened to
Okay.
by your husband right now?
Mhm. No, this is what always happens at home. Yeah, not
Hey,
very
Johnny,
listened to.
watch this. This is a move I often make. What's Mrs. Johnny's first name? What's your name?
Let's call her Alicia.
Alicia. Okay, Alicia, what he just did to you and your experience of absolutely not being listened to on a scale of 1 to 10, as I call him out on this, how accurate am I on a scale of 1 to 10?
Um, a 9.5.
And on a scale of 1 to 10, how critical is this to change in order for you to feel good about your marriage? How central is this to you?
Very central.
Give me a
Essential.
number. Give me a number.
9.
Hey, Johnny, If I were you, I'd pay attention to what she just said. You seem like a smart man. What was it like to hear her say what she just said about you? Be him.
Mm. I'm not sure how he would respond to that. I imagine
So
that
you're
it might take.
watching me. You're watching me join through the truth. You're a good
Hmm.
man. This is not good behavior. And I wouldn't move into family of origin. You don't have a basis yet.
Hmm.
You go into family of origin, it's like, well, where did you learn how to do this? But you don't have agreement yet with him about what the this is. That comes first.
Hmm.
I'm glad you're in level one. That comes first.
Okay.
So you're ahead of yourself.
Okay.
He,
Thank
he
you.
doesn't even think he's got a problem yet. You're gonna have to wake him up to that. What's that like to hear?
For me or for Johnny?
To you come out of roll, shake him, come out of roll.
It's very helpful. This is part of why I've hesitated to really use it in a session because I think I need more practice with it. So this is great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, can I tell you why it's terrific for you to be a beginner?
Why?
Because you are. Relax. You got a lot of people looking over your shoulder helping you and supporting you. It's a beautiful community. And you have a wonderful spirit. Welcome aboard. It's great to have you join us.
Thank you so much. Thank you both.
We're lucky to have you. Okay, do we have
Thanks.
time for another one?
Yeah, let's bring on Glenn. Glenn, can you unmute? Oh, Glenn just turned his camera off.
Up. There we are. Hi, where are you calling from?
Hi, Terry. Toronto. There seems to be a lot of people in Canada today.
Yeah. And do you have RLT training?
I do not, but I'm intrigued by level one. It might not work for this month, but it's on my list of something to do.
Okay, great. So tell me your question.
I'm just wondering about the 10% that you suggested are not.
The ones
Are
I
not
can't read?
yes. And does that get into the clinical psychopaths of the world?
Psychopaths? Is that what you're asking?
Is that 10% the clinically diagnosed psychopaths? And what are your criteria to differentiate when I don't want to take this on?
Oh, who the hell knows? I don't know, honestly. Are they psychopaths? They're politicians.
I was wondering about that.
They're world leaders.
We got that too.
But I don't like those labels. I don't really care what your label is. I care about one thing. Do you want to do the work? And I often tell this story, Glenn. It's a true story. Many of you heard me say it, so forgive me, but it's true. Two borderlines. I mean, by any definition, two raving borderlines, heterosexual, yelling, screaming, throwing things. He storms off, goes to a motel. She follows him and she's banging on the door. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. The cops come and drag her. Honest to God, this is all true, but I mean, borderlines. But both of them were raised in violence. They were being violent toward each other. And she got pregnant. And she was goddamn bound and determined that she was not going to expose her child to what she lived through. And she didn't. And she went to rehab and she went to intensive treatment and they worked like dogs with me. They did DBT. She got on medication. They straightened their shit out. They had a beautiful pregnancy. They have a beautiful family. They have a beautiful marriage. And I love this part. She's a certified RLT therapist and a good one.
Wow.
So don't tell me what your label is. Tell me how hard you want to work. That's all I care about.
That's the key.
Beautiful.
Okay. Thank you.
Will, do we have anything from what you've read that it seems like a burning question for people?
There, I don't want this to sound like a line, but the depth of the questions I couldn't. They're so nuanced, they're so deep, but it kind of requires getting to know the model of RLT to get an answer for them. So there's a lot of, really difficult sounding cases, a lot of questions about what we would call preconditions, that there might be a threat of abuse or a threat of violence or a threat
Yeah,
of
let me say
leaving.
that.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I'm going to end with this. One of the 8 lenses you'll learn in level 1 is what we call preconditions. These are conditions that have to be dealt with before you can pretend to be working on the relationship to make it better. You can still meet with a couple, but only to deal with the precondition. And they are untreated psychiatric disorders. If someone's got a depression, anxiety, bad ADD, they need to be evaluated, probably medicated and treated. Serious self-medication, all the way into an addiction, but heavy drinking, drugs, whatever, food. I'll say to somebody, you may not have a drinking problem, but you've got a anger problem, and sucking down that martini every time you come home from work is not helping you with your anger. So we're going to deal with that. So serious self-medication is getting in the way, and acting out, either sexual or aggressive. I didn't say this, but I don't, as a rule, work with a couple while there's an active affair going on. I would say to the person having it, you got to end it to work on this relationship, or whatever. And we can talk about how to tiptoe your way out of that. But I would advise the person having a third leg of a triangle to clean things up if they're going to work on the primary relationship. That's not saying you're poly. That's different. That's cheating. And aggression. If there is a threat of physical violence, couples therapy is contraindicated. We do not encourage people to tell truth to power. If it's dangerous, we do not meet with a couple. The one down gets a safety plan and goes off to get some support and empowerment somewhere physically safe. And the dangerous one goes off for DV treatment, most usually groups. So we don't put people in danger. I'm glad that came up. But you will not be in danger. You will be having the time of your life in level 1. Sign up now. You get the free Ginzu knives. No, you don't, not really. But will come to your house and demonstrate. No, not really. Anyway, look, I've had a blast talking with you today, and I would love to see many of you come and train with us. Will, final thought, if any, from you?
I'm going to stay on for 2 minutes for anyone that has last minute questions of a customer service related nature on the bottom. And then I got to run. I have to get to the passport office, but I have 2 minutes for you. So Terry, thank you so much. It's been fantastic.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
great as
Thanks,
always.
everybody, and thank you, Will, for your support. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, of course.
God
Of
bless.
course.
Be well,
Thanks,
everybody.
Terry.
Bye.
Okay, so some rapid fire customer service based questions, and then I have to run to the passport renewal office. So, when is the next level 1 cycle being offered after January? I don't know. Roughly every 6 months. Does level 1 start multiple times a year? Roughly twice a year? Not for sure, but roughly. The recording will be sent out within 24 hours. The CE for today, if you've been live for the whole thing, we're going to send an email in the next 24 hours, and then you've got to fill out the evaluation for that. Then you will get your certificate within 21 business days. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. How many CEs are there if you can't do the live part? If that's for level 1 and you can't do the live part, there should still be 10. It may be 7.5, but we're doing our best to get that up to 10 CEs. Normally, it's the live course is 10 and the home study version is 7.5, but we're seeing if we can work some magic to make them both 10. What's the total cost to gain accreditation and timescales? Spencer asked. Spencer, I put in the link for certification. I'd go check that out. That's the best way to get info because it's different for a coach or a therapist, also depending on what kind of courses you've taken before, because those courses and the cost of those will go towards your certification. I already did level 1 and level 2. Can I please get access to those 40 videos? Yeah, Lynn, if you go into the level 1 course, you will see it'll say library of clips, and all 40 clips will be in there. Sometimes I see services offering some. Don't know what that is. Can I do it from overseas? Absolutely. How do I get a link for recording from December 10th? Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my gosh. Sorry. Oh my gosh, Joy. Email us, support@terryreal.com. I don't know what that is off the top of my head. Last one, will the links be emailed to us or do we need to cut and paste them from the chat? Best to cut and paste them from the chat, but they should be in the email as well. Do you have RLT therapists in Barcelona, Spain? From Nuria, you could look up on the directory. So it's directory.relationallife.com, and you can search by country, or if you're in the United States or Canada, by state or province. But if there are any in the country, they'll be there. Any other questions, please do email us, support@terryreal.com. And I hope to see you in the level 1 course. Have an amazing day, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye for now.